Hello again, I'm Matthew from thewetpen.com, and I just wanted to post this quick video today because I recently found a special edition bottle of ink that I thought that I had missed out on a few years ago. This Lennon Tool Bar ink is the 2020 Winter Limited Edition, and when I first discovered it at Yoseka Stationery a few years ago, it was already sold out and I couldn't find it anywhere else. Just recently, though, I was thinking about a trip to Taiwan and reading some novels that are set in Taiwan, which is what I always do before I travel to a place. So I read this book, A Pail of Oysters by Vern Sneider. It's a good book, incidentally, with a good introduction to a little bit of the history of Taiwan after the Communist Revolution in China. And the book was banned or suppressed for decades, so that's always a good sign. Anyway, I searched for the ink, and this time I got lucky. Not only did I find the ink, I found it at Atlas Stationery, and from Atlas, I could get an affiliate link to help support videos like this, so I could justify spending the $45 for a bottle of ink and some extras. I also have a discount code down below. So let me show you. It's a really beautiful set. This is the box, of course, with some really nice oyster art on the front. Not sure which way is up, and there's even more on the underside of the lid. When I was a kid, my parents used to take me out to Penn Cove here in Washington to collect oysters. I wonder if you can still do that. Inside the box, there are a couple of little booklets. They call them zines, all about oysters and harvesting oysters. This one is in English. And then underneath, there's another one in Chinese that appears to be the same thing. Then beneath those, there are a few really beautifully done postcards. This one has clumps of oysters on their rope in a nice silver foil design. And the back has a little more oyster-themed artwork and is a pretty typical postcard otherwise. And this one has more oyster art on it, this time with someone collecting them, it looks like. And this one is a photo of the wooden poles that the oyster farmers grow the oysters on in the shallows. They described these in that book I mentioned earlier, but I didn't really know what they look like, so that's really cool. They don't use this method here in Washington. And finally, here's the bottle of ink. Lennon Tool Bar does such a wonderful job with all of the artwork on these boxes, and I love the shape of these bottles. Here's the label on the box that gives us a little bit more information about the contents. We see it's the 2020 Autumn and Winter Limited Edition ink, and it's a 35 milliliter bottle. And this is interesting. It lists 3 basic components: water, dye, and thickener, when usually there's also a 4th component, a surfactant to break the surface tension and make the ink flow. Then it says we have postcards and zines, and it gives us the sizes and composition of those. Back to the ink though. I think it's time to swatch this one. I'm going to swatch this one on my color ring, on Usari, on Tomoe River, and on some ivory Midori MD paper. This ink looks a little darker than I would have expected, but that probably makes it more usable for me, although we'll have to see how it dries down. Unfortunately, my camera is having some problems with overheating and I've lost some footage here, but here we are with the ink mostly dry, and it looks like a nice greenish dark gray or a light black. There's pretty minimal variation across the 4 papers, but there's a little bit of dark sheen. The sheen looks just a little bit purplish, but mostly just black on all 4 papers. Let's see what kind of shading I get when I put this on some paper with a dip pen. Okay, and after drying for a few moments, this is what we get. Some nice shading, but not dramatic, just enough to appreciate. And now I will ink up a fountain pen. This is my Asa Nauka, which has a broad Yovo nib. And again, after giving it a moment to dry, this is what the ink looks like. The shading is maybe a bit subtle, but it looks really nice to me. And here I've written a bit more. Let me know how you like it. I think it looks really pretty. I'd say that the flow of this ink is a bit dry, but I certainly haven't had any problems with it. Now, this ink looks nice, but it doesn't claim to be waterproof. It's not a pigment ink like some of the Lennon Tool Bar inks that are sold in this style of bottle. Just to make sure though, I thought I'd do a quick test. With a bit of water from an eyedropper, this ink lifts away from the paper and disappears almost immediately. Definitely not waterproof. So that's that for this ink, but as long as I've got you here, I might as well show you another bottle that I bought at the same time. I'm a big fan of Taiwanese high mountain oolong teas, and this one is called Dongding Oolong. This used to be transliterated as Tung Ting, if you've had that. But again, this is really wonderful box design and label art. On the back label, we see their motto, "To turn love into ink," which is great. Another wonderful bottle. Great heft for a 35 milliliter bottle. There's also a little sheet of paper in here with some writing in Chinese and English, with some cryptic information, I don't know, maybe some poetic information about the tea industry on Dongding Mountain. This ink will be a good companion to the Kobe Alishan Oolong ink that I got recently in Japan. Alishan is another tea-growing mountain region in Taiwan. I'm not going to do a proper swatching of this ink right now, but I'll at least show you what the color looks like. I find that Usari paper gives me a good reliable color, so I'll show you the color on that. And there it is, a nice forest green, the color of dry green oolong tea leaves. The ink is on the thin side, but not watery like the Alishan was, so I'd expect some nice shading when writing with this ink too. And I'll show you what it looks like when I write with it. This is also on the Usari paper, but with a 1.1 millimeter stub nib. And that's it. Both nice inks, but this Oyster in particular is a really nice addition to my collection. I have a few busy weeks coming up, so I'm not sure which video I'll post next week. Whatever it is, I hope that I will see you all back here again then. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and enjoy your fountain pens and ink.